Hello everybody, it's Antti again and this is the Beyond Testing show. Welcome to our studio in the heart of Helsinki, Finland.
Hello world, this is Sami and welcome to the show. Today's topic, why overlooking the testing basics can be dangerous.
Wow, that's quite the question. Who sent that question? So why overlooking the testing basics can be dangerous?
Yeah.
Well, there is a presumption that overlooking testing basics is dangerous. I'm not really sure if it is. We have to address that presumption probably. But this leads me to first think about what exactly are the testing basics then?
Well, we had a tough talk about this because I guess that as much there are testers, there are as many approaches to testing and
the
basics
testing
as basics.
Well. Yeah,
you could read, you could go to ISTQB training or TMAP training, and they start training testing techniques like boundary values and equivalence classes and that kind of stuff. And some people consider those testing basics, and they are good techniques. No, there's no denying that. But to me, usually when I approach testing, my basic is to create a plan for it. And I have a 4-step plan. I
actually have a 5-step plan.
Yeah. So let's compare.
Let's compare. Yeah.
First, I start mapping out what do we know. What information inventory we have, bug databases, what the customer has said about our product, what tools we have, and that kind of stuff. So our resources, so to speak, information-wise, and then what we are missing. What do we need to? What's our information objective? That's the reason for testing. And you start testing and gaining that information about the product and services. And that then where to focus. We had a talk about focus also, because there's too much. There's too much. You have to develop skills to focus on something, but also defocus. You cannot find anything by drilling down into something. You cannot find that bottle of ketchup in the store if you just are in your nose in the...
Yeah, if I go to my like local store that is like, I'm not sure how many thousands of square meters, of store space, and I try to find the ketchup like by just going one item at a time from the store and just like go there. It's gonna take ages.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you gotta take like the overall picture, like zoom out to see the whole of it, and then zoom in to where the ketchup most likely is located.
Yes.
So it's like zooming in and zooming out.
Yeah, and being aware. Where to choose your battles. Yeah. Because there's too much. You cannot ever test everything, so you have to choose those. And usually those are guided by risks. What are the biggest risks we need to cover with testing? So that's pretty basic. And then how do we work? Yeah. What is our what kind of tools we use? What kind of workflow models? Team composition and that kind of stuff. And then you're at it. Those four, I always do those 4 steps in all of my testing. Those are my basics.
That's real basics, exactly.
Yeah.
That's actually interesting, like when thinking about like this really traditional approaches to testing, for example, some organizations go like heavily on scripted tests. They have like either like huge sets of test cases that people in somewhere around the world are just running those tests again and again and again, or they have automation. And that approach, if you only approach testing that way, that will eliminate your opportunity of actually zooming out and looking at the big picture to find the ketchup, for example. Yeah. So like just like sticking into this one game plan of testing, it's actually that's one answer. Probably it can be dangerous because then you end up just looking at those rows of products or those paths in the forest, and then you don't look other places, and that's where most problems lie. They lie where you are not looking yet. You gotta find those places, and that's what threatens the value of the business as well.
Absolutely, and I see too much. Even the best development teams I've been working in, they do it too lightly. They put some tests to release pipelines, CI/CD pipelines, And there's like 14 tests that they need to run under 1 minute. So if they add tests, it becomes longer and their flow is jeopardized and that kind of stuff. So they diminish testing so that the flow will keep on going. And that's really dangerous. Some people don't even do unit testing or integrations, and they forgot all the abstraction levels and everything that has been gathered for tens of years.
Another danger uncovered here. Yeah. One angle into, actually you have a solid game plan. One angle into that is like I hear that in the beginning you are very interested yet again about the context of what you're doing.
Yeah.
One really important thing like that I've noticed that most testers tend to overlook is the business of the product that we're serving.
Yes.
And for example, just a simple question: where does the money come from and why?
Yeah.
So that's a simple question that most testers don't have a tendency to ask.
Yeah.
And that question usually leads you into thinking about where do I need to focus my thin resources to produce the most amount of value for the business.
Absolutely.
Where does the money come from and why? And that question gives you the insight that you can use, because you could be doing anything in the store.
Yeah.
Now you know what to focus on because that's the value of the business, the money flow.
Yeah.
So that's one basic that I usually endorse heavily testers to actually try to learn to ask the money questions.
Yeah.
Then another in a sense context eliciting question is what are the outcomes we're aiming for, beginning with the end in mind.
Yeah.
This is one of the big lessons that I use not only in testing but in business and in life as well. Begin with the end in mind. So what are the outcomes we're aiming for and why are they important?
Yeah.
And for example, in testing, I've noticed that a lot of time this traditional testing actually focuses on going for the outcome of building evidence that the system still works after the updates, everything works as previously, nothing has changed, and that's all in a sense you end up just checking that everything's still there.
Yeah.
But when you're focusing on that outcome, there is the different kind of work that you need to actually start to do if you want to find new problems and new unknowns about the product. So there are different kinds of approaches and ways of working for different kinds of outcomes you're aiming for.
Yeah.
For that reason, I usually say that the money question is important. And then what are the outcomes you're aiming for in testing? Is it evidence? Is it new bugs? Is it something else?
Yeah.
So you always need to clarify those outcomes that you want to go for this time around.
Yeah. I found certain similarities because my second step was information objective. What information are you trying to dig?
Yeah.
And the focusing part, I'm really fond of risks. You mentioned about the value to the business, and it's usually it's quite concrete when you talk about risks. If we don't cover these areas, it creates risks that will impact the revenue or how people see our company image or that kind of stuff. And that's quite easy to address as money. But there are also other risks, not only market risk, but there's orchestration risk. How well do we manage all the pieces that we use to build our products and services? For instance, microservices. There's one piece that does the access control, one piece that handles the shopping cart, one piece that shows the products, and one search, and so on. And you assemble your product and service from those pieces. Yeah. And if there's a risk, for instance, back in the days, well, I don't know if I can tell this, but I was
nobody tell if he tells it.
Yeah,
keep it a secret.
I was testing this certain food web store.
Yeah,
and I managed to find a weakness in the orchestration, in the architecture, in a way that I could order the food for free.
Yeah,
I could manipulate the shopping cart.
Yeah.
And
That's a priceless bug.
Yeah. So that
Tell me about it. Like later when we shut down the cameras, I want to know everything about it.
But
I want to order free food.
It doesn't work anymore. They fixed it, but they didn't have to fix just one piece, but whole orchestration.
Yeah.
And it was orchestration risk that manifested as a market risk. And but there's more like underlying. There's product risk. That the product itself, it may become too expensive to develop and maintain. That's a product risk. And also functional risks, that certain functionalities, they are not there
Exactly.
to serve that. And the underlying risk, they all often impact the people's willingness to develop and maintain the product, like motivation things. And if you don't have motivated people in your ranks, then you are in deep. But yeah, there's like lots of risks that you need to consider, and when those risks become important enough, then you have a focus point on your testing.
Yeah. Well, now I find myself thinking about like why overlooking the testing basics can be a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And I find like a lot of the stuff involved in the testing basics is actually knowing the context and knowing the background, knowing the business, and having enough information to actually do the work. And like it leads me to think, what is the danger there? And like I would say one of the big dangers is because like I'm not sure if you have like unlimited resources for testing. Do you? No. Yeah, exactly. I don't either. Actually, in one workshop I had this like person sitting in the back row. He was like, no. It was like really like body language was negative and was like, yeah. Like I was asking, do you have unlimited resources for software testing? I was like, we have unlimited resources for this. I was like, what's your industry? What are you doing for a living? And he said, yeah, we do these flight control systems. So if anything goes wrong, it's going to be a disaster and people are going to die horribly in flames and stuff like that. So for every 100K of like development, we get to do 400K of QA. So, okay, you don't need to be in this workshop, I told him. And like he stayed and he enjoyed.
Yeah.
But like most of us, we have limited amounts of resources. So if you don't know the background, if you don't know the outcome, if you don't know the money flow, where to focus, you easily end up wasting those scarce resources in things that don't benefit the business.
Absolutely.
And that's the biggest risk of testing, because like a lot of managers, when you ask them, so what do we need to do as testers? They say everything. And we as testers, we need to be able to boil it down to the most essential, because we don't have unlimited resources. Yeah. And that's why the prioritization is the key. Yeah. After all, so you need to get the information, you need to know how much resources you have at your disposal, and then make educated decisions about how to prioritize the resources. Yeah. And that's it. That's the 5-step test plan basically for me. What's the outcome? And then how much resources do we have at our disposal? Then what's the priority of those outcomes, because everybody wants like everything. So we need to prioritize. Then we allocate the resources, and then the Nike slogan is the number 5. It's just do it. Yeah. So you got to work your ass off then. Yeah. That's like the 5-step game plan for testing for me. And that's the basic. But yeah, I think the biggest risk is usually wasting the resources, and when you waste the resources, then you may overlook something that may be disastrous for the business. Yeah, so that's the big risk.
Absolutely. And you said the magic word. I always consider risks. Yeah. You risk of not covering risks.
Yeah, exactly.
Market risk, product risk, orchestration risk, functional risk, and so on. So you are completely ignorant on the risks that are looming on the good work that you are doing.
Yeah. So that's true. So the punchline here would be that like, don't obsess about doing things right at the expense of doing the right things.
Cool.
Do you feel like we've covered the topic of the question?
Well, we could talk.
Yeah, we could talk more all day, but the audience won't be there anymore in like half an hour and a half later. So thank you for this discussion. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for staying tuned. If you have any questions that you want us with Sami to address in our future episode, please don't hesitate to post them in the comments field, and gently hammer that subscribe button if you see it. it's gonna help everybody in the industry. Take care and bye-bye. You can wave as well. Look at that camera! That camera. Yeah.
I've been looking at that camera all the time.